It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Wednesday, March 27th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Health is Happiness, the Bible history word study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? And yes, it is already the middle of the week. It is Wednesday. It is Hump Day. Hope you guys are enjoying. Don't forget, we have Q&A Thursday tomorrow, so get those questions ready. Send them to me whenever you can. Now, if you haven't yet, on today's podcast, leave a like and comment to build our community. Just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. Now, this week's Sunday message title is Do Not Stumble on Account of Me, or Do Not Be Disappointed. Okay, so it is Wednesday. We do have the Wednesday service tonight. Hope everyone is enjoying your week thus far. We're already midway through. Hope you guys have gotten a lot of things done and realized many things from this week's message also. Like, think about this, guys. It's 27th. We are inching closer to the end of the month, which means next Monday is already going to be April. I can't wait for April. It's kind of like a marking of, I think it's like a marking of spring coming. I thought it was March, but March is still kind of cold. So I can't wait because April is like, yeah, we're definitely in spring. And to be in spring would mean, well, it doesn't really mean anything for Malaysia because it's like always summer here. There's no seasons here. But when it's spring, I can go visit Korea. I can go visit Japan. I can go visit Canada again, right? It's not really cold anymore in those places. Oh, by the way, I have already bought my ticket to Korea, and I'll be heading there in the middle of April. I'll stay there for about 2 weeks, right? So I'm really happy about that, because during that time also, which is kind of cool, the volleyball tournament is going on. Which I don't think is the most exciting part for me. It's actually, for me, the most exciting part is Internet Ministry Department meetings, right? Because I can't wait to just start getting into just seeing what Korea wants to do with Internet Ministry and such. That is a meeting I really look forward to. What is the plan for the future? And I really feel that this will be a good meeting to plan for the future. Actually, some of my friends were actually asking me like, hey, why are you only staying for 2 weeks? It's too short. But then I told them my dream, and I was like, look, I'm married. I'm committed to my mission, and I can't leave my wife for too long, so I need to go back to Internet Ministry. So I'm only going to stay for a short time. I told everyone, even when I was booking my ticket, 2 weeks is max, right? Because I'm doing a lot of live streams and stuff like that too, so I'm hoping that I can get a lot of things done by that time. By the way, guys, those of you guys in Malaysia, in Asian countries, Korea, Japan, Taiwan, just to let you know, there's going to be an actual live stream today, right? It's going to start at 9 a.m. in Malaysia. It's not going to be pre-recorded. It's an actual live one. 9 a.m. in Malaysia. It'll be, for those of you, who are actually, but if you're in America, only if you hear this early, you'll be able to catch this. But those are the people in America. It's going to be Tuesday evening for people in America and Canada, 6 p.m. Pacific and 9 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, and I'm very, very happy. The Rebel Pastor channel is going smooth. It's been 2 weeks now. And let me just do a quick double check of how the channel has been doing over the last 2 weeks. So it's been exactly 2 weeks now. So exactly 2 weeks later, what have we gained so far? So it looks like, 1 second, very, very good statistics in the last 2 weeks. So in the last 2 weeks, it says that we've gained another, it looks like 85 subscribers in the last 2 weeks. 85 subscribers. And we are up to more than doubling our views. So our views are up to 12,000 views a month, where before it was like under 6. It's like sometimes 4 point something, 5,000 views a month. We are at 12,000 views for every 4 weeks. So we've actually pushed our stats. Last time I checked, we've had 10,000 views in the last 2 weeks, right? So that is another very exciting thing. And yeah, from 2 weeks ago, it just really, really from that first live stream that we did, right? And it just keeps going higher and higher. So I am super happy about this. The shorts are doing very, very well too. And I hope that you guys can share those things also. Like the shorts seem to be the best ones to share from my perspective, right? It looks like those are the best ones to share. But yeah, 2 weeks now, over 85 new subscribers, over 10,000 views in the 2 weeks. So I'm very, very ecstatic and happy that more people can hear the words of this time period. And I think most importantly, the thing that Sunsi wants is the field of the gospel, to spread the seeds of the gospel onto the fields to make the people more ready. So everyone, we are doing an awesome job, and our channel is growing once again. And like Sunsim said, every day, what can we do to do internet ministry? Watch the videos and share it to 3 people. And like the big benefit of my channel is we have a new thing popping up every single day, right? And it always comes up at the same time. It's always at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, or 9 a.m. Malaysia, 10 a.m. Korea is when all these videos keep coming out. So I hope that you guys can really be able to share these to 3 people each and every day. There's going to be a brand new video so people can watch this. So, like Sunsim says, everyone should be part of internet ministry. And right now, at the moment, the shorts are like really, really big for me right now. So what is the goal? At the moment, we have almost 5,100 subscribers, which means our goal is 10,000. We want to get 10,000 subscribers. There's only, this is how amazing the stats are. Of all the YouTube channels, kind of guess the percentage of what's the percentage of YouTube channels that have at least 10,000 subscribers? And you'll be kind of shocked by the stat. It's less than 2%. It's 1.75% of YouTube channels has 10,000 or more subscribers, right? So, to get into 10,000 subscribers, you're getting into like the 98th percentile. That's how big we're getting, right? So I think it's quite amazing. Let's really, really get this going together. All right. So I had this crazy dream this morning, like crazy dream. It was so intense. I can barely remember all the details. I can just remember the feeling, right? And it was so intense, so real, huge. Like it was me battling against Satan and temptation, right? And it wasn't like some analogy of me going to a war and fighting against the enemy. It was like more realistic. It was actually way more scarier. Like it was me in the dream, and I can see, like, I felt Satan's presence. I can feel Satan coming into my heart. And I'm battling with my mind to keep Satan out of my heart, him tempting me. And it was like this dream was so long, and I'm just fighting against Satan through my heart and through my mind. It felt really long and arduous. And when I woke up, the first thing I did, I just prayed right away. Really, really. It was so real. And I felt that, wow, the battle is beginning. Like now that internet ministry is the key, and that is my mission, I really, really feel that Satan is coming after me to attack me. So I feel that the battle it's already starting. It was intense. It was scary. Like I should have just got up and started writing my dream down, but the first thing I wanted to do was pray. I just wanted to pray. That's all I wanted to do, right? So quite interesting, and I was just like, wow, like this is intense. I woke up, prayed right away. Yeah, it was a difficult dream, and it was so real. It wasn't like a normal dream. It was me really in the dream, and I felt the intensity of fighting, of Satan trying to invade into my heart and my mind. So I'm not sure if you guys have been getting any dreams like this, but that's the dream that I had this morning. It was really, really crazy. But yeah, let's really pray for each other, making sure that all of us can overcome the temptations. And then especially now that as we're starting to make a big push for Providence and evangelism, bringing more people to this history, let's really make sure that we get a lot of people to, let's really make sure that we pray for all the people getting into internet ministry. Also, at the moment, I am not sure how many people in English ministry are actually doing internet ministry. Like, well, I know there are some. I know some post like Proverbs on Instagram or Bible verses on TikTok and something along that line. I don't know how many people are actually like straight out preaching the gospel or trying to get people to come into this history through these means. So I thought it was something that was very, very interesting and hopeful for the future too. So I had a very, very interesting conversation with a member just now, like maybe right before I was recording. And it was an interesting question because the question came from the Sunday message. Like at the very beginning of the Sunday message, it says that John the Baptist got tempted when he got into prison. And the question is, what isn't it but John the Baptist was already struggling beforehand. So how can the word say that he got tempted while in prison? Okay? And I thought that was a very, very good question because it's true. It's true that he was getting tempted. He had some doubts. He had some things going on in his mind, and even before getting to prison, but the word says it was from prison. Like from that point on, he was getting really, really tempted and stuff, right? And what I would say is if I were to look at the reality of my life also, I would say that there is a huge difference between everyday life temptations and then the temptation that comes from extreme tribulation. I say there's a huge difference between the two. Like, doesn't everyone go through daily temptations, right? Sometimes we overcome them. Sometimes we fail to the temptations. But it's a daily life thing. It's not really a huge thing. And since we're not going through big tribulations, we don't look at it as a big deal of this or not. Like, I think John the Baptist, when he wasn't in jail, his life was fine, right? And everywhere he went, yep, Jesus, yeah, he's the one that was sent. He's the one that I saw here and there. But he was happily living his own life, happily preaching to his own people. And I think he was fine at that point. Right? And I think it's something that we all go through. But the big issue comes is when huge tribulation comes. When a huge tribulation comes, it completely changes everything. Example, 2023, the spiritual Oppenheimer. It was so huge that it took people to the very edge. That great tribulation is what pushed people to that point. And, I think it's really about, number one is, do you know the Lord correctly? Number two is, what is the mentality and attitude that you go into the Great Tribulation with? And I think that makes a huge difference, right? So let me give you two examples of people who went to prison. One failed and one didn't. Obviously, John the Baptist went into prison and he failed. But look at Paul. Paul also went to prison too, but far different outcome because of their thoughts of Jesus, because of their conviction and absolute knowledge and how much they truly believed, right? And I think it's something that we do have to understand is that, yeah, we're going to have the daily life doubts and stuff like this, but it doesn't really affect us because we're not really going through like heavy difficulties and such, right? It's just true. We're not going through that difficulty. However, when we do end up going through that difficulty, that's when things change. That's when things are very, very different, right? Because it pushes us to the edge. It makes us really self-reflect, look at our faith and who we truly are. And I think is completely different, right? So I would say that, this is something that John the Baptist went through the greatest tribulation. When he went through the greatest tribulation, that's when he really, really got tempted. Everything beforehand is not really heavy temptation. There's no need for him to be like, I denounce Jesus. There's no reason to, right? Because everything is going fine in life. He's got followers. People respect him. He even has the king's ear. All these things he has. And that's the same with us too. In our regular everyday life, when things aren't that bad, it's not we're contemplating life itself. It's only when the things hit the fan, we're like, oh, what is my life? Why is this happening to me? Oh, that's when we really, really start to think about it. And that's why I think that key point there was only when you hit great tribulation is when you hit that real that real temptation, right? So as we continued on the conversation, another interesting thing that this member said was, it seems that the people closest to Sunstream are the ones that go through the most tribulation. They put everything in, and then they go through the biggest tribulation, right? And they fall away. And I would say it is true. It is true. When you put everything in, then Satan's going to put everything in too. However, it's kind of like once you put everything in and you're that committed and that convicted to this history, it's kind of like, yeah, you're ready for the big stuff. However, I think one thing we do too much is we focus too much on the negative news, right? So we talk about Judas Iscariot and Judas scared better that he wasn't even born. Oh, what's happening here? What's happening there? But when you look at the reality of Jesus' disciples, look at how many stayed, even till death. 11 out of 12 stayed. And we really focus on the ones that leave. And, which makes it seem like, it'll happen to anyone who is next to Sunstein. But even if you look at the spiritual Oppenheimer from last year, everyone didn't leave. Even the vast 80% didn't leave. 90% didn't leave either, right? The vast majority stayed. So I think sometimes we tend to look at the negative side too much, and that causes us to think a little too deeply, like, oh my gosh, if I get too close to Sunstein, then I'm going to leave. And the answer is no, you won't, right? What's going to happen is people get close to Sunstein. The closer you get to the sun, the more everything is revealed, right? That's why the Bible says that everything will be revealed by fire. And what are you going to be left with? Right? Is your house made of straw? Is your house made of iron or ore? Because if it's made out of metal or steel or rocks, even if it's burned through the fire, the house will still remain. But if your house is made of if your house is made of straw, the fire comes, burns everything down, and you're only left with the foundation, which is Christ, right? So I do think that sometimes we do look a little too much at the negative parts, like, oh no, what happens? Well, these people have left because they're too close to Sunstein, and the answer is no. When you're too close to Sunstein, you're either going to be really awesome or really bad. Like, everything is just seen for what it really is. So I would say definitely you don't have to worry too much, not worry, but I wouldn't say that it is a very, very high chance of you leaving or a high chance of you going to the negative side, because all throughout history, it's the majority that stay. It's not the majority that leave, it's the majority that actually stay. So that is something that I would consider and I would think about too, right? So yeah, it's very, very, I love these conversations because a lot of these conversations I have, it really makes me think deeply, because, we're not thinking about these things all the time. But when we have these great conversations and discussions, it really opens our hearts and our minds to what is possible, or the things that we never thought about that we need to think about. And I do think one of the things that is always going to keep you guys steady is going to be about, everything is always going to be about, I just lost my thought. What was I just going to say? Gosh, I just lost my thought. Like, I'm sitting there like going, I had a word in my head and now it's gone. And now I can't even think about the original thing I was actually talking about. And I'm like, do I have to turn back? Like, stop this and turn back and listen to what I just said? But then it would be, I like this to be quite natural as possible. I really do want this to be more natural as possible. But yeah, I completely forgot, guys. Sorry, my age just caught up with me in like that one split second. And I think I'm getting dementia or something, right? Because I don't remember exactly what I was going to say. Very, very, I apologize. I should have said, I'm not sure exactly what I was saying there. Thank you so much for the people that have been calling and asking me about, about Provi in the media. Yes, the poll is up. Hope you guys are really enjoying the polls too, because I do want to know. And a lot of you guys out there are telling me like, oh, it was a big benefit. It was a huge benefit of Provi in the media. And even my friends from Korea are telling me like, oh, we're not sure what the actual situation is, but they also think that it's probably a very specific situation that's happening in Korea, not in the Western countries. But of course, I'm going to be very, very safe about it. I'm not going to just all of a sudden report on the trials and stuff like that, even though Sunseem said what he said. So I just want to make sure that it's, that I'm not in the good books, but making sure that, I will be the rebel pastor against Satan. I'll be the rebel pastor against the world, but I will not be a rebel pastor against God and the one that he has sent. Like, that's the one thing I am not going to do. But keep writing, keep clicking in those polls. What did you think about Provi in the media? Was it beneficial? Was it harmful? Is it something that was, put in the comments if you think it was something that was only because of something that's happening only in Korea, not in the rest of the world. I would love to know what your thoughts are on that situation, because I think it's very, very important that Sunseem will know that, no, the Western countries are completely different. It's completely different than, Korea, where rumors are spreading, there's factions and divisions. Because from what I know so far is, people in the Western countries are very thankful for the information, and it does not split them. It actually makes them more confident and stronger in their faith. It doesn't say that people aren't saying, no, you said this and I said this and like there's not that many rumors floating around like it is in Korea, right? Like speaking of Korea, like I'll be going to Whitestone Church for the first time since the spiritual op. Like the last time I went to Korea, I was there 3 weeks. I didn't go there. I just don't want to deal with all that craziness. But I am going to visit this time. And because I'm going to visit, I'm not really nervous or anxious or anything like that. I'm actually more curious. Like I am going to report when I go there and when I do my podcast, I'm going to tell you what my real feelings are. Like, wow, it felt like this. It felt like that. Well, there's brand new head leaders. There's 2 co-head leaders there right now too. So that's something I'm looking at like, oh, that's going to be quite interesting to see, talking to the leaders and stuff like that too. And yeah, I'm very curious and interested to see exactly what the feeling or the atmosphere is there. Like I just really hope it's not going to be like, there's going to be pushing and pulling and stuff like that too. Or there's going to be, hopefully people know that, I hope people know that I'm still in Providence. Because, sometimes you're in that bubble over there. But guys, I'm going to let you know. I really will. Like how strange or how amazing things really are over there. For me, I think I'm only going to spend like the first couple of days over there in Seoul, go to the volleyball tournament, and then spend the rest of the time in like the Wonmyeongdong area, or travel down to Busan or Daegu, or other areas too, and just play, either play sports, go exercise, or do these other different types of things. But I am very, very much looking forward to my time in Korea once again, looking forward to being in Wonmyeongdong, having some peaceful time. And I'm very thankful and grateful that I will be able to participate in the volleyball tournament, because I haven't practiced with that team at all. But it is something that I am looking forward to either way. Okay. So yeah, a lot of things to think about. Oh, and if you guys have any new topics or new questions that you think that would be great for my Rebel Pastor YouTube channel, because every week I go over certain questions or things that people are really asking about. I think in today's, remember, this is not pre-recorded, it's going to be a live stream. Today's, I am going to go into the topic of prayer. Prayer seems to be a very, very huge topic. It really seems to be a huge topic that a lot of people really want to know about, and especially in the world, or they really want to know about really good prayer. And I hope it's something that I can really answer a lot of questions and help people in their time of prayer too, right? So that is something that I am looking forward to. And I think this, if it's about prayer, I do think these are like the topics, especially in Christianity, that will go more viral. That's just my feeling. Right? But everyone, as you've always done, please pray for my Rebel Pastor channel so we can get the words and the gospel sent out to the people. For those of you, thank you so much for always watching. Thank you for those that are sharing the Rebel Pastor YouTube channel, like the shorts and stuff like that too. I really, really appreciate that also. And if there's anything else that you guys have that can be good advice, I would love to hear about it too. All right? So yeah, that's the first segment of today. Today we also have the Bible history. We're going to go into the story of Abraham, and then we're going to get into the beginning of Jacob and Esau also. So yeah, we're going to start on chapter 20. So in the last, month and a bit, we've gone 20 chapters into the book of Genesis. You guys can look at it every Wednesday. We're going chapter by chapter by chapter. Not everything is spoken about from Sunsteam. Some things are just my own commentaries. The things from Sunsteam, I will say Sunsteam said this or Sunsteam said that. So I do hope it's something that you guys will really, really enjoy. Okay? So there it is, guys. Yeah. Before we get into Bible history, let's get into the first break of the day.
You lift me up from falling. I feel your warm embrace, breathing life into my withering spirit, pouring out your love and grace. So I think to myself, I'll repay you. Ooh, oh. You pulled me out of darkness so many thousands of times. You gave me strength and courage, everything that I need in life. Look at all the countless blessings, I'll repay you. Ooh, oh. Even if the world forsakes you and they misunderstand what it means to be in providence, holding God's truth in our hands, we fulfill the greatest history, God's will and highest love. All the wondrous miracles you've shown, only here in Providence. Providence, push forward, we'll run till the end. With our solid faith, we'll repay you with all our heart, will and life. And now the seals are broken, the treasure's now revealed. You've shared his highest wisdom, valued secrets of how to live. Looking back at all the memories, I'll repay you. Ooh, oh. Even if the world forsakes you and they misunderstand, what a blessing it is that you're here, acting with God hand in hand. We've received the greatest rapture, we've gained eternal joy. This is God's final history, never will it be destroyed. Providence will shine our brightest light for your dreams. Your word fills the earth. Yeah, we'll preach, gain all that you want to achieve. Even if the world forsakes you and they don't understand, we're more than proud to be here, holding God's truth in our hands. We fulfill the greatest history, God's will and highest love. Your words, your precious providence, we'll cherish it till the end. Providence, we'll stand till the end. Providence, we'll live with our God. Providence, love God with our heart, will and life.
All right, so let's get into today's word study. And every Wednesday, we do have the Bible history word study. And we've been going into the book of Genesis. We're going to go into Genesis chapter 20. Right, so Genesis chapter 20 is very interesting. It's going to be a similar story of Abraham going into Egypt, and he says that my wife Sarah is actually my sister because he's there to protect himself, right? So protecting the prophet, the man of God, and his wife agrees to be said that she is just the sister because in those times, if there's a pretty or beautiful wife, they will kill the husband to take the wife also. So this is why he is protecting himself. And you might think to yourself, it's like, oh, isn't that a little bit extreme? And the answer is no, those types of things actually happen at that time. Okay, so he says, hey, guess what? This is my sister. And at that time, there's a king named Abimelech of Gerar. And he's a king of that area, sees Sarah and says, whoa, she's really beautiful, and takes her as his wife because he thinks that she is only Abraham's sister. So in a dream, Abimelech is told by God, is like, God's telling him, you're going to die. Like, that's pretty scary. God's telling him, you're going to die because you're with a married woman. And he's like, dude, I'm innocent. I swear, I didn't know that it was Mary. He told me it was his sister. And God's like, yes, you went in with a clean conscience, right? And God is saying this because many people do go in with bad consciences to try to kill the husband or whatever, right? And basically, all the women in his household go barren. Like none of them can have children. And of course, but interesting thing is, how does he get healed or how does he escape from death? What does Abimelech do? What God tells him in verse 7. Verse 7 is, go to Abraham, get his prayer, and then the curse will be lifted and you will not die. Right? And it really kind of reinforces this week's Sunday message, which is God is always working through the man of mission. Through the one that he sent, everything always happens through him. Right? Only through that person can you be saved. Just like Abimelech would have died unless he went through the man of mission, which was Abram at that time. Think about this. God could have just said in the dream, all right, just let him go. And if you let him go, then everything is fine. Right? Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. Why? Because it's between you and me. But even then, he's like, no. You need to go to him. Say sorry. Right? And then on top of it, you need to get his prayer or else, you're going to die. Your whole household's going to die. Right? Which means that they're going to all be barren and not be able to have any children, right? And that is God reinforcing the principle of everything happens through the man of mission, the body of the one, right? The body of God, the one that God has sent, right? So by the end of the chapter, you'll see that Abraham prays for all, prays so that all the women can bear children again. So that's the first one. That's chapter 20. When we move into chapter 21, this is where the birth of Isaac comes into play. His not his firstborn, but his firstborn of Sarah. So finally, Sarah bears a son for Abraham at 90, and Abraham was 100. And of course, we all know that the calendar years are very, very different, and the way that they count are different from each time period and each culture and each country too. So, and also, please remember this. We know that Sunseam was able to solve the dates of age when it comes to the time of Noah, right? So we know that, so every month is a year calculated at that time. But remember that we cannot just use the same calculation that Sunseam talked about for Noah for all the old people in the Old Testament, right? Something is very clear that the calculation is only for Noah's time and no other time itself. So don't go around using that calculation for Adam, using that calculation for Methuselah, using that calculation for other people in the Old Testament time too. It was only for Noah's time. Now, personally, I think that Abraham was old. I really do. I don't think he's 100, but I think he was old. It's quite normal for a man to have kids. Even men today can have kids into their 60s, right? One of the things that Sunseam did say was, the number of is 7. Oh, what was it? Was it 6 and 7? Eve is 6, and Adam is is 7 and 8. Oh man, I'm trying to think about the calculation that the number of man was 8 and the number of woman is 6, right? So, or was it 7? So women will go infertile by 49, which is 7 times 7, and 8 times 8 is 64 is when men go infertile. I'll have to relook into that one itself, right? But definitely Sarah would be much, much younger than Abraham. Now, what does that mean, right? Well, think about this. All these kings want to get with Sarah because she's so pretty and beautiful. But if she's really 80, 90, 100, there are no kings and there are no people that are going to be wanting to take Sarah as their wife. So one thing you do need to know back in those days, right? Back in those days, people were getting married. The women got married in their teens, sometimes 12, 13 years old, while the men were in their 30s. That's kind of the tradition or the culture, the ways that things were back then. So you're talking about a really, really large age gap between Abraham and Sarah, right? So I think the age that matters more is what was Sarah's actual age, right? So Sarah actually has a baby, right? And names him Isaac, and this is the one that is promised by God. But then a really, really hard issue comes up, is when Sarah is having the baby, she kind of looks down on Hagar and Ishmael, and he's like, send them away. So he's telling Abraham that the reason why this is so hard is because now Abraham has to send his firstborn child away. It's still Abraham's child. Even though it's with Hagar, the maidservant, it's still his child. Right? And what Sunseam talked about is, but this is the fault that you go through for your sins. right? So Sunsi would give examples like, yeah, if you sin and commit the fault and yet you are forgiven, it doesn't mean all of a sudden your baby's gone. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that all of a sudden you don't have a baby to take care of. No, you still have to take care of the baby. You still have to deal with the consequences of the sins that you actually committed. Even if you're forgiven by God for a crime you commit, you still go to jail. It's not going to be like, God forgave me, so why can't the court forgive me, right? No, if God forgives you, then that's the most important one, which is in heaven. But on earth, you still have to pay the price, right? So Abraham still has to pay the price. He shouldn't have given in to Sarah and slept with her maidservant, right? He shouldn't have gave in, but just trusted in God. And now at this time, the best thing to do was basically to send Hagar away. There's no other way, right? So, reluctantly he sends her away. But the good thing is, God comes to Abraham and says, hey, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, right? I'll take care of them. They're going to do fine. So he sent them away. And, obviously Ishmael grew into one of the largest religions in the entire world right now, which is like how many years later? Like 4,000 years later, right? So that's kind of what the situation is with Isaac being born. And then the next story in chapter 21, it goes into some treaty made. Interestingly, it's with Abimelech. But Abimelech is no longer just a king. He's actually the commander of the forces of Abraham. So Abraham becomes really huge, right? That Abimelech, who's the king that wanted to take his wife, is now his commander of his forces, which means Abraham is ruling over him. So this is very interesting to see how much the person of God is being blessed, right? Then we move to chapter 22. And chapter 22 is the test that we all know, the big test, right? And this is one of the big tests that kind of solidifies that he will become the father of faith, the father of nations, having descendants more than all the sands on the seashore. You will not be able to count your descendants, right? And that is to sacrifice your only son, right? And, it's a lot of foreshadowing here because this is the exact same thing God does. So here's the thing that we have to really think about, right? Some people will say that it was so unfair that God asked Abraham to sacrifice his only son. How cruel that is. But here's something where God is like, this is something that even I would do. How do we know? Because it was actually done 2,000 years later with Jesus, that God actually sacrificed his only son. Repeating history is happening. There's a foreshadowing happening here, right? And this was one of the greatest conditions, right? One thing that's so great about Abraham's like, you know what? If you gave me a baby at 100, then God, you are so almighty. How can you not give me another baby even like next year? So at this time, this was the big condition. It basically restores the time period, makes Abraham the father of faith. And why? Is because it is showing that Abraham 100% puts God above everything, including his only son. And those guys don't know about that time period. The son, the firstborn, or the only son, that is something that is huge. It is such a big thing that what's that called? It actually it makes the lineage move forward. It goes through the sons, right? And he's only got one child. So this was huge for Abraham to sacrifice his only son, right? Another thing that was really impressive at this time is not only the conditions set by Abraham, but it's also the conditions set by Isaac. So Isaac is going up the hill with his father, and he's like, Dad, where's the sacrifice? He's like, don't worry, God's going to provide. God's going to provide. And he's been constantly saying, God's going to provide, God's going to provide, God's going to provide, right? And what eventually happens is, that basically Isaac knows he's a sacrifice. Why? Because his father bound him, He could have easily just ran away from his dad. His dad was so old compared to him. He could have just jumped off the altar and said, I'm not doing this, But he was willing himself to. And Isaac was able to establish himself as the restorer of Ham, right? The followers that he followed absolutely 100% to the man of mission, right? He was willing to be sacrificed for God's will. And, he knew what was happening, right? So in the end, God knows how great Abraham's faith is, that he's even willing to give up his only son, that, God eventually says, stop, don't do this. And this is where the term Yehovah comes in, or Jehovah Jireh, which basically means the Lord provides, because in the thicket was a ram. And Abraham looks at the ram and says, oh, the sacrifice. Oh, the Lord provides. And he takes that ram and sacrifices that instead of his own son. And then here's what's very interesting. Like, how big this is, where God says, this is kind of funny. He says, I swear by myself, which means, God is saying, I swear to God, right? Or I swear to myself. He's like, I swear to myself, in God's name, that you will be the father of nations. So I don't know how many times you've seen this in the Bible, but God swears by his own name, which is quite incredibly intense, right? So I'm just like, whoa, he's like, yeah, I swear in the name of myself, right? Like, that's how confident he was, and that's how that is 100% guaranteed to happen, okay? Let's move into the chapter 23, okay? So in chapter 23, this is when his wife Sarah dies. And basically he comes to the people and he bows down to them. And this is more of something that he comes it's more of a tradition. And he bows down and says, please, I am not a person from this area, but if you can find a place for me to bury my wife, I would be very grateful. And one thing you'll notice is there's a huge difference in respect and love for each other and for your elders and the ones that you respect, way different than today. Like, here he is asking for a field or a tomb that he can bury his wife, and everyone is just honored that they can just give it to him for free, right? That's the level of respect back at that time. It was an honor to be able to give this to him. But he's like, no, I'm going to pay. This is for my wife. I'm not going to take it for free. I'm going to pay, right? And, it kind of shows you, like, where has honor and respect gone in society today. Back then, someone well respected and loved, boom, it belongs to you. It is my honor to give this to you because I look up to you, I respect you, and I love you that much. And if you look at society today, I think society is so far off from that level of respect and love for those that deserve it, right? Let's move into chapter 24. So chapter 24 is where, so Isaac is born. Now when you guys look at this is actually something that happens before Sarah dies, right? So this is about Isaac and Rebekah. So this is not chronological. It's basically how Isaac met his wife, and his mother, Sarah, was there to marry them together. And this is a very, very big thing, because remember that they're very, very old. And because Abram and Sarah are old, they may not live to see their, Isaac get married, but it happened so that before Sarah died, she was able to see her husband get married. Not her husband, her son get married, right? And once again, we go back into respect, love, and how much faith they absolutely had back then, right? Like, getting a wife today is so different than getting a wife from, back in those days. It was basically 100% absolute trust in God. It was not done with your own eyes. Oh, she's pretty. It was not done with, oh man, I really, let's take a look at how tall they are, what's their hobbies, this and that. It was done with absolute trust in the parents and in God. So, how did they find Rebekah, who is Isaac's wife? So there's a servant that goes to find a wife for Isaac. All right? So in verse 14, this is how they found the wife. May it be that when I say to a young woman, please let down your jar that I may have a drink, and she says, drink, and I'll water your camels too, let her be the one you have chosen for your servant Isaac. By this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master. Tell me, how crazy is that? It's like, how am I going to find a wife? Well, I want you to go back to your hometown and go to the well and ask for a drink. And if they say they're going to feed your camels too, that's your wife. I'm just like, what? That's so crazy when you think about that, right? And what's even crazier to me is the response from the father, Bethuel. So Rebekah's father is Bethuel. And when the servant goes and says, dude, I prayed to God, and God said that if she feeds my camels too, she's gonna be the wife of Isaac. You know what the father said? In verse 50, the father's like, this is from the Lord. We can say nothing to you one way or the other. Take my daughter, take her and go, and let her become the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has directed. Like, when you look at that, I'm just kind of like going, what? Like, it's already kind of like nuts already that, you're going to find a wife, whoever feeds my camels, okay? And then it's even more nuts, right? That the father's like, dude, this is from God. How can I say no? Just take my daughter, right? Like, for me, I'm just like, man, the trust in God is incredible. Even when it comes to marrying off your daughter, it is incredible, right? And of course, Rebecca is taken back and married to Isaac in front of his mother, Sarah, right? So this happened just before Sarah died too. So she was able to see this moment of her son, her only son, being married off. So, it was a great moment for his mom, right? Which moves us into chapter 25, which is the last chapter we're going to go into for today. And chapter 25 is basically the death of Abraham. So before he dies, Sarah dies, but Abraham actually took in another wife and had more children with that wife. Interestingly, is like the thing that we should kind of take from this is, think about it. This just the fact that even after 100, Abraham took another wife and already had more children. It shows that it wasn't shocking for Abraham to have more children. Like, Abraham was capable of having many children, right? Still, he wasn't that old. Like, at the age where you can't have children anymore, that wasn't the miracle. The miracle was actually for Sarah, right? Because now here he is having another wife and then still bearing more children. So it wasn't a miracle that Abraham could produce. It was more of a miracle that Sarah did in her old age. And obviously, she's not going to be like 70, 80, 90 years old, right? She was probably, most likely, she's probably in her 40s to 50s, probably, something like that, right? And, when we look at the culture of the Old Testament, like I said, the wives are much younger, so it's not something that we would say that, oh, it's so off kind of thing. No, she was probably maybe even up to 20, 25 years younger, possibly 20, 25 years younger than Abraham too, okay? Let's go into, and then at the ending of this chapter, it goes into the lineage. So the lineage of Ishmael, and then and of course, that's not the important one for us, is going to be the lineage of Isaac, right? And Isaac has twins, Jacob and Esau, and the prophecy over the two children is, 2 nations are in your womb, 2 peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger, which means that already Isaac and Rebekah knew that the younger would be the one that has the authority that will lead the older one, right? So Esau comes out first, and Esau actually means red, or Edom, right? So that's why the Edomites come from Esau, right? So Esau means red because he was hairy and red when he came out as a baby. He's the one that grew up to be like a manly hunter, right? Jacob, on the other hand, was hairless, and he came out literally the same time as Esau. What does that mean? Because as they're pulling out Esau, Jacob's hand was holding onto Esau's heel. So they basically came out at the exact same time, like, pretty much, right? Esau was hairy and red, and Jacob was probably like hairless and white, right? Not red or anything else like that. He stayed at home with his mom, kind of like a mama's boy, right? And then, of course, we have that famous story of Esau coming home from a hunt, famished, and Jacob is cooking lentil stew, and basically Esau sells his birthright for a bowl of stew. And what Sunseem said at that time was, at the very end of chapter 25, it does say that Esau despised his birthright, right? He didn't know the value of it. He didn't know how great it was to have that birthright. So from this point on, since he sold it for a bowl of stew, everything that goes on from this point is not really a deception, as in he stole it. He did not steal the birthright. It was sold to him in the past, and the only way for him to get it, and for his father and everyone else to understand, is he had to do it in a different way, right? So Sasim said that, yeah, he basically despised his birthright. He didn't know the value. He didn't know how great the birthright was. He just thought to himself, like, yeah, come on, whatever. So Jacob actually becomes the rightful owner of the birthright from this point on, right? And that's why when we see the prophecy about Jacob and Esau, we understand that, okay, so that's what it means that the older will serve the younger, not because, it's like the younger is going to steal it. It's because it was sold to him. He had every right to get that birthright. It was not wrong for what he did. All right. So there it is, guys. That is the Bible history word study for today. Hope it's something that you guys enjoyed, and hope it's something that you guys will really be able to gain a lot from also. We will be going to chapter 26 from next week. Okay. So, that means the only thing left we have is health is happiness. I believe today we're going into the second segment of the liver, I believe. Is it the second segment? Is it the liver? I think it is the liver, right? Health is... Dr. Abby is going to be speaking today again. It's going to be... was it the liver or was it the kidney? Oh, the liver. It was a liver. Liver part 2 will be done today by Dr. Abe. Okay? So before we get into that, let's get into the second music break of the day.
When I look at you, it's like I got the whole room on the tip of my finger, and I'm pointing it right back to you. When I look at you, it's like I got the whole universe, the whole universe. Never thought that living could be easy, so you taught me right from wrong. Now I'm free to be full of love, full of hope. I'm empty of all things. I'm living to make everyone come follow me. This is a life worth living that I know. If I love someone else, what would he give me though? It's like I'm floating on clouds, my feet don't touch the ground. Life with you is like heaven, look at what I found. You said believe in me, don't change, and then you'll see a life that lasts for all eternity. And I will never live to have any regrets. I know you're the best, I'll step to the west, I'll follow behind you step by step. Just like the stars above, we shine shining. Look at the world, in my hands the universe is mine. It's yours, can't escape from your love, it's yours. It's yours, can't escape from your love, it's yours. Just like the stars above, we shine shining. Look at the world, in my hands the universe is mine. It's yours, can't escape from your love, it's yours. It's yours, can't escape from your love, it's yours. When I look at you, it's like I got the whole room on the tip of my finger, and I'm pointing it right back to you. When I look at you, it's like I got the whole universe, the whole universe. You said believe in me, don't change, and then you'll see a life that lasts for all eternity. And I will never live to have any regrets. I know you're the best, I'll step to the west, I'll follow behind you step by step. Just like the stars above, we shine shining. Look at the world, in my hands the universe is mine. It's yours, can't escape from my love, it's yours. It's yours, can't escape from my love, it's yours. Just like the stars above, we shine shining. Look at the world, in my hands the universe is mine. It's yours, can't escape from my love, it's yours. It's yours, can't escape from my love, it's yours. When I look at you, it's like I got the whole room on the tip of my finger, and I'm pointing it right back to you. When I look at you, it's like I got the whole universe, 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 the whole universe.
Okay, so let's get into the final segment for today's podcast. It is a wonderful Wednesday, hump day once it is. Yes, it is. I hope that you guys have enjoyed the podcast so far. So we're going to get into today's Health is Happiness, another rerun. Last week we did the liver part 1 with Dr. Abe. Today we'll get into the second part. So I hope you guys super enjoy this. Let's get healthy. Health leads to happiness, all right? So everyone all the way over from Australia, this is Dr. Abe with Health is happiness.
Hi everyone, it's Abe here, doctor in Melbourne, Australia, and we are back after a short hiatus with our organ series. Last time we spoke about the liver, so let's now continue our discussion. Now, when it comes to diseases of the liver, I like to think them in 5 categories. The first is infections. Now, these are the hepatitis viruses. There's 5 of them, and they go from A to E. You can get them from either exposure to an already infected person's blood, by eating contaminated food or water, but particularly in ice, or through sexual contact. Thankfully, we actually do have vaccines for most of them, and for the ones that we don't, there are very good antivirus treatments available. Moving on, the second category is substances. So these include medications, and the big one is alcohol. So, lots of medications as a side effect can affect the liver. And that makes sense, right? Because remember last time we talked about how the liver processes toxins from our bloodstream. Now, the way it works is medications often have an active ingredient, and that specific ingredient is what helps us with the medical condition that we have. Unfortunately, sometimes, however, those medications have toxic byproducts, and those are the things that can affect the liver. Now, just to be clear, it's not all medications, and when used in safe and correct doses that your doctors have prescribed you, they won't actually affect your liver. But if, for example, you overdose, and the most common medication that is overdosed is paracetamol in this context, then that can harm your liver in a lot of ways. The other substance is alcohol, which is also processed by the liver. So excess alcohol can actually lead to what's known as cirrhosis. So let's discuss cirrhosis in a little bit more detail as an aside. So cirrhosis is specifically when the liver becomes scarred and roughened, and this is essentially due to a long-standing repeated toxin buildup, of which alcohol is one. So moving into this a little bit further, it's actually a progressive problem that happens over a lot of years essentially. So the liver inherently is actually very good at healing itself. It has a really big regenerative capacity. However, in cirrhosis, the liver is exposed to a toxin. That toxin causes inflammation of the liver. The liver then tries to heal itself, but if the toxin is still present, then the healing can't keep up. So eventually, the liver cells die and they're replaced by scarred and fibrotic tissue. If the toxin still isn't replaced, then this cycle just continues and continues and continues. So eventually, most of the healthy liver cells die out and they are replaced by that non-functioning scar tissue. And that's why the liver is very rough and thickened. Okay, let's move on to the third category. Now, there are actually non-alcoholic causes of cirrhosis, and that leads me to the third category, which is called fatty liver disease. Now, this fatty liver disease essentially relates to what's known as the metabolic syndrome. Okay, and the metabolic syndrome contains things like obesity, high cholesterol, diabetes, and high blood pressure. All these concurrent medical conditions are a cesspool for liver disease. Because what happens is with obesity and high levels of cholesterol, the liver actually develops pockets of fat within itself. And that's again very toxic and causes inflammation of the liver. And the cycle of healing and insult of the liver starts again like we spoke about and eventually leads to cirrhosis. Okay, the fourth category is known as autoimmune disease, and that essentially means where the body attacks itself. And there's also a component of genetic diseases such as hemochromatosis, which essentially means too high iron levels in the blood, or Wilson's disease, which essentially means too high copper levels in the blood. Once again, too much of anything is toxic to the liver. Now, finally, our fifth category is cancer. One of the most common cancers of the liver is called hepatocellular carcinoma. I come to it last because essentially any of the disease categories we spoke about can eventually lead to cancer. If there's a lot of inflammation, a lot of scarring of the liver, that can predispose the healthy liver cells to undergo mutations. And with any mutations in the genetic code, your liver is very susceptible to developing cancer after that. Okay? Now, in terms of the symptoms, there are many symptoms and signs that might indicate that you have an issue with your liver. The most well-known one is jaundice. Now, jaundice is the yellowing of your skin and eyes, and it actually occurs due to a chemical called bilirubin, which accumulates in your blood. Now, it's actually a normal product of our body, and it gets processed in the liver and then removed from our body in either our urine or stool. But if you have liver disease, well, that means your liver can no longer process that bilirubin, and so it accumulates in our blood. And once it reaches certain levels, that's why the yellow tinging starts to appear in our skin and eyes. Other symptoms also include itchiness of the skin. You may also notice pale stools or darker urine. You obviously might develop some abdominal pain, particularly on the right-hand side, because that's where the liver sits. And associated with this, you might have some nausea and some vomits. Now, those are sort of general signs and symptoms that something might be wrong with the health of your liver. But moving forward from that is that your liver can actually go into failure. And it's important to know some of the signs and symptoms here because, of course, it's a medical emergency. Now, all of the above diseases that we spoke about can cause this, and some of the biggest signs to look out for is what's known as hepatic encephalopathy. So hepatic is just another way of saying liver, and encephalopathy is just a fancy way of saying any disorder that is affecting the brain. So it's basically saying a liver causing brain dysfunction. And often patients present with confusion, they might go into a coma, they're very unsteady on their feet, they're not thinking straight. So that's the first symptom of liver failure. The next is called ascites. Now what this is essentially is fluid accumulation in the stomach. And so often patients will come in with very, very distended stomachs. And that's a sign that potentially that the liver is failing. And one of the other major signs and symptoms of liver failure is bleeding and bruising. Now, we mentioned that the liver has a very important role in producing the clotting proteins. And if there's a deficiency in it, then obviously, if you can imagine that you have a cut, if there's no clotting proteins in the bloodstream, you'll continue to bleed. So thanks everyone for listening in. Hopefully you've learned a little bit about liver diseases. Look forward to seeing you guys in the next one.
And thank you so much, Dr. Abe, for another wonderful episode of Health is Happiness, going into the liver part 2. If you want to listen to the first part, go ahead and listen to last week's Health is Happiness, which is Wednesday last segment. All right? So there it is, guys. That is today's Wednesday podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Have an amazing and awesome service tonight. And we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and feel your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know. I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm